Hello, it's me. See what I did there? Gosh, I'm hilarious. Anyway, hello, obviously. Today I will speak of my trip back to Lombok from Flores. I actually have a little drawing here. I ripped the page up though before actually realizing what I was ripping up. Typical, but that's fine. Okay, so after we had our last dinner in Flores, like all together, I actually had a very, very frustrating debate about abortion, and it got so heated that at some point I just left the table. That's fine. Differences. Anyway, so as you can see, there's a Komodo dragon right there, and right next to it is Flores. And so I decided to go back by land, well, obviously, like, it's island, so also by ferry, all the way to Lombok, because I thought it was cheaper. Turns out, like, that night we arrived in Flores, the German couple booked a flight for 30 euros, which would have taken them, like, maybe 2 hours max to fly. It took me 31 hours, and I ended up paying more than them. But it was an experience, so that was fine. So I left early in the morning, and I was initially very happy that one of the crew members was coming with me because he's a local guy, he knows his way around, and like every time somebody would come up to me and I would go like, I'm with him, they would just back off, and I was like, oh, not bad. So again, Indonesian times, we would wait like 3 hours for our ferry, and we'd still arrive on time. I don't know like why they just tell you to come 3 hours before, it doesn't really make sense, but okay. So our journey started at 8 in the morning, and we took a ferry first for 5 hours. We had good conversations, although like he was sitting next to me and I was like, oh, so what did you do before being a crew member? And he was like, I was a drug dealer for 10 years, and I was like, wow, that's nice. But it was very good. Like, I put my trash away, like I threw it in a dustbin, and he was like, I appreciate that, thank you. I like that you Westerners do that. We don't do that here. And he explained to me that actually, like, back in the days, everything they used to eat or, like, make was, like, with banana leaves, so it was automatic for them to just throw the banana leaves away on the ground. However, the years change, and now it's plastic. So, as they still have the reflex of throwing it away, it pollutes it even more, and he was saying, like, the government knows about this, and they're not doing anything about it, and it really pisses me off. And he was explaining to me that he was teaching about the Muslim culture, but he told me it was a secret because he was teaching the opposite than what they teach at schools or something like that. So I thought it was very interesting to hear like the other side of the story, obviously. So we had 5 hours of ferry, then we got, I don't know where, and then we took a bus for an hour and a half. Really made me laugh in a way, because like the moment the kids and the women got off the bus, it was like only men, and they directly started smoking, and I was like, are you allowed to smoke in the bus? And he was like, oh, it's Indonesia, just never mind. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, the windows were open. It was like one of those little tiny buses. It was good. So an hour and a half, beautiful, like, trees and, like, mountains. And the higher we got up, it got colder, obviously. So that was very nice. It was beautiful. And we shared music. We listened to music together. Very nice. And he was telling me about his 3 kids and about his baby that is coming because his wife is pregnant. So yeah, we were having good conversations, sharing food and all that. Then we arrived to a place and we had to wait there for like 2 hours before catching another bus at 7 at night. So yeah, we shared food again. Like I bought donuts, nom nom nom, and he got something else. This seems like all like, anyway, stupid details, but bringing you with me. So we waited there for like 2 hours, just stranded in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, he started drinking. He actually started drinking like at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, please don't drink too much. And he was like, okay, mom. And I was like, yeah, just chill. And then like he was chit-chatting with a bunch of random people that he met there. And like one of them was like properly drunk, and he was like, have a shrimp to me. And I was like, I'm fine, I'm not hungry. And he was like, have a shrimp. And I was like, okay, I'll have your shrimp, thank you. And then he was like, I need a picture with you, blah, blah. And I was like, seriously, I'm fine. Like, at some point, obviously I was the only woman, I was like, can we go to the bus now? And then one of them stood up for me and he was like, dude, just leave her alone. She's fine. Just go to the bus. So we went to the bus, and All of these transports, by the way, I was the only non-local person, which obviously doesn't matter. It was just an observation. Yeah, you attract more attention, obviously, especially in a Muslim country while I was wearing shorts. So yeah, that was that. And then the trip took another turn because we got into the long bus, like the night bus, and we started sleeping. And at this point, he was properly drunk and properly, like, he couldn't even speak properly. Sorry, I'm still jet lagged. By the way, this is not my apartment. I'm sleeping over at Phil's and Rory's, the British guys that I met in Bali and ended up spending a week with on Gili Tea. So it was actually very, very nice to meet them here. Like, they came to pick me up at the airport. They're sweeties. Such a small world. Anyway, back to my story. Yeah, so we got into the bus, and then this lady told him in Indonesian, and he was like, oh, she's beautiful. And then he told me, he was like, she says you're beautiful, everyone thinks you're my girlfriend. And I was like, that's a bit weird. And he was like, well, it's not normal here for two people of different color and different sexes to walk around together. And I was like, okay, cultural difference, what can I do? Nothing. So anyway, he was pretty drunk, and then we went to sleep. And then twice he's tried, like I actually got harassed in the bus, basically. The first time he tried to grab my leg. He grabbed my leg, basically, and I was sleeping, and I woke up because obviously something was touching me, and I was like, what the fuck? And then he was like, oh, sorry. And then he went back to sleep, and then later on, he, like, properly tried to grab it, and I slapped it away. Like, I was really shocked at my reaction, how fast I slapped him away, and, like, how hard. And he was like, oh, sorry, which fucking sucked, obviously. So I ended up sleeping with one eye open for the rest of the night. And I've been telling this story to quite a few people, and some people think it's weird that I talk about harassment so openly, but I was actually more angry about this like a week after it happened, but obviously as I'm only doing this video now, it's cooled down. But I refuse to keep quiet about people harassing me. I also got harassed 6 times on Gili Tea at a party. 6 locals, not at the same time obviously, grabbed me, grabbed my ass, grabbed my boobs, grabbed whatever they wanted, because apparently I'm a woman, so they can do that anyway, right? And there's also this guy that I was standing at the bar trying to get Wi-Fi to get to my friends, and he decided that it was okay to thrust his fucking penis against me. So, yes, I refuse keeping quiet, even though it's quite humiliating and painful, really. Like, I feel violated. I felt violated. Even though, like, I consider myself a strong person, it does affect a person when they get harassed. And by keeping quiet, I think that those kind of people win, because it makes them think that it's okay to do stuff like that, and I don't agree with it. It's not okay. So that happened. So that changed the trip. And then at 3 a.m. we stopped, and apparently it was included in the price. Like, we got some, mom and dad, I'm fine by the way. It's just, anyway. So we stopped, and food was included apparently in the bus price, which was nice. So at 3 a.m. we all had like a sort of dinner. We had a 40-minute break, like rice and stuff like that, which was actually very good. And then we went in the bus for like another hour, and then we took the ferry again. So we had to get out of the bus at like 4, walk to the ferry, and then sit on the ferry for like 3 or 4 more hours. And here comes another woman alone thing. I was sitting upstairs, and it was quite like wobbly waters, and it was late, so it was pretty cold. And I went back down to the bus to go get my stuff, and I was actually like, I'll just sleep in the bus because it's like more comfortable and it's warmer. And it was pitch dark when I got downstairs, and then this guy was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm going to my bus. And he was like, okay, I'll open it up for you. So he opened it up for me, and there were like already 3 guys sleeping in the bus, no women, and he walked into the bus with me and stared at me while I took my stuff. And these are the kind of things I hate, because if I would have been a man, I would have been able to sleep in that bus comfortably and not cold. But because of the fact that I'm a woman, I had to think about the fact that I could have easily got raped, which is why I had to take my stuff and go upstairs again. And I don't know, these are just the kind of things that really piss me off. It's not going to stop me from traveling alone, because I'm a woman, because that's fucking ridiculous, I think. But yeah, it's just, I hear so many stories about guys that do like amazing things and like amazing discoveries and stuff like that, and sometimes I feel a bit bitter about it, because most of the things are things that I could not do without like constantly having to think of possible consequences or possible expectations. But that is not a reason to stop. That is not a reason to not go outside and like just sit at home, do the dishes or whatever women are supposed to do. So that's that. Anyway, then we arrived and I was like, okay, goodbye. We're done here. We arrived in Lombok and I had to go back to Bali. So I was like, okay, what do I do? And they're like, there's this really expensive ferry. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to pay for an expensive ferry, obviously. Do you have any alternative? And they're like, yeah, we have a bus, but it only leaves at 10:30. And I arrived at like 7 in the morning. And I was like, obviously sleep deprived because I'd barely slept. Pissed off, almost menstruating. Thankfully, I didn't menstruate during my trip. That was good. And so I was a bit grumpy. And I was like, okay, can I at least have internet so I can like book my hostel in Bali? And they're like, yeah, it only opens at 9. And I was like, I hate my life right now. But then apparently the guy took pity on me. So like, okay, I have had bad experiences, but I've also had men and women that have been extremely nice to me. And this was one of the occasions. Even though I was grumpy, he came back to me like an hour later and he was like, okay, there's an alternative. You can get a ferry for a lot cheaper. It was a local ferry. And I will bring you with my scooter there. And yeah, it's like $150. And I was like, yes, that would be absolutely amazing. What time does it leave? He was like 8, so we have to leave now, or like 8:30, whatever. And I was like, thank you so much. So out of his own initiative, he took me on the scooter for 45 minutes with my bags to bring me to the ferry, which was cheaper, so I could get home earlier. So I really appreciate that. That was very sweet of him. His name was Ari. And he didn't want any extra money, or like I offered him food or whatnot, like the only things I had in my bag, and he's like, no, it's fine. So that was very nice. I also had an experience like that in Malaysia when I got back from Penang, and then I was like, I got dropped in Lumut and I had to go to Marina Island, which is like, I don't know, maybe 6K or like more. I was like, I'm just gonna walk. And then this guy was like, do you want a taxi? And I was like, no, I have no money. I did technically have money, but I didn't want to waste money. So I was like, I'm gonna walk. And he was like, no, you're crazy, don't walk. And so then he fixed like an Indian chauffeur for me, and the Indian guy was like, oh, just come. And I was like, I only have food in exchange. And he's like, I don't want anything. We're gonna get these people, and then I'm gonna drop you off there. And he was really a sweet guy. And like, you have good conversations. But again, you always have to think about like possible expectations. So my trick is like, I ask them about their children. So were they going to kill me, or like if they would want to kill me all of a sudden, I could go like, think of your children. Anyway, I watched too many Criminal Minds episodes, I think. So yeah, I got there, had to wait an hour for my ferry, then took the ferry for another like 5 hours until I got to Bali. And then in Bali, I had to book another bus to go to Ubud. It was a very, very long trip, and I was very, very tired. But while I was waiting for an hour for my ferry, for my last ferry, this girl came to sit next to me, and she's like, hey, where are you from? And I was like, yeah, I'm from here and here and here. And I don't know, I said something, and then she was like, oh, you're a feminist. And I was just laughing, and she was like, it's okay, I'm a feminist too. I'm used to being the outcast of society. And I was like, oh, we're gonna be friends. So that was nice. And then we ended up talking for the whole trip. Well, I slept also, but we talked for a lot of it, and she's a very, very smart person, and I really like the way she thinks. Yeah, we had a lot of things in common, and we talked about different aspects of like different aspects like cultural things and pollution and the way women are treated. She asked me like, what do you think of the position of women here? And I was like, well, it's obviously a male-dominated culture. Yeah, and then later on, I'm not going to say her name for her own protection, but I asked her if she had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and she said, and I was like, is that a yes? She was like, sort of, and I was like, boyfriend or girlfriend? And then she didn't answer, And then she looked at me and she's like, you know the answer? And I was like, yeah. And I asked her like how it is here, well, in Indonesia, and she said it was very, very difficult, that you couldn't really, well, obviously you couldn't be open about it, but that her university had started a first LGTB blah 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 group. But yeah, she was telling me how hard it was for her to like live with it and accept it. Like, she told me that she wasn't sure, and she was like trying to like find a way not to be it, but you don't really choose to be gay, do you? So it was a very interesting conversation. Very, I don't know, like you hear it from, obviously you know about the Muslim culture and how they treat like gay people, but I thought it was very nice like to speak with an actual lesbian who was trapped in that culture. So yeah, that was very, very good. And then at some point, like, conversation died out and she looked at me and she was like, so are you hippie? And I was like, what? Why? And she's like, because of your hair. And I was like, well, everyone has hair like this now. But yeah, it was very funny. She was a very, very sweet girl. Very smart. She knows like a lot of things about so many different things. That didn't really make sense, but you get my point. Yeah, it was a very good meeting. Oh, and I got insulted on the ferry. Of course I did. There's this vendor trying to sell me stuff, and I was like, no, I'm fine, thank you. And he's like, yeah, I get it, like rice, blah. And I was like, no, I'm fine, thank you, I'm not hungry. He's like, are you not hungry? And he started like tapping my hand, my shoulder. And then he was like, oh, you're hungry, you're hungry. And I was like, I'm not hungry. Can you stop touching my stomach? And then he said something to me with a big smile in an Indonesian. And obviously I didn't understand. I only heard Lombok. And then this girl I was with, she told me, she translated it for me later. She was like, yeah, he just told you that your Lombok's trash because of what you're wearing. And I was wearing shorts and an oversized tank top, which did not show any of my shapes. But okay, that was nice. Great way to start my day. So Lombok, even though like in total I was only there for like a day, did not give me good vibes. I was warned against it before as well, of not going there alone as a woman and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was pretty much my trip back. And then I was so tired that I just, like, when we got out of the bus in Ubud, I saw these two girls and I was like, do you guys have a place to stay? And they're like, yes. And I was like, can I follow you until that place? They're like, okay. So I basically stalked them, but it was fine. I got my place and then I slept. I was very happy to be like in a bed and in safety and not sleep deprived. So yeah, that was my trip back. Like 31 hours. This is not a very joyful video, but makes you think, I think, I hope. Probably forgot some things, as always. Thank you for your patience. And I will be back because I still have 3 topics to cover. Ooh, by the way, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, so then at some point, like still in our conversation, the girl and I was like, can I ask you something personal? What'd you do for your period? Because in the Muslim culture, most of it, women are not allowed to use tampons because they're not allowed to put something in their vaginas. So as she was quite liberal and like she's Muslim on paper, but she doesn't consider herself a Muslim, I asked her and I was like, do you use tampons? And she was like, I've never used a tampon. I actually had to explain what a tampon was. And she was like, no, I've never used it, and I will never use it. As a side note, a good alternative to tampons are moon cups. See how I'm sneaking this in here? Because like if I would just make a video about moon cups, some people might get scared off. So now, moon cups for life. Okay, so I bought my moon cup before leaving, which I'm very, very happy about, and everyone should do technically because like tampons cost a fortune, especially in Asia because, well, in Indonesia you're not allowed to have tampons, so it's only for the Western world, so they're a lot more expensive. So, moon cups, I can actually show you. Should I show you? I will show you. Yes, wait. Okay, I'm back. So, this video took a turn. It comes in these little cute bags. You have size A and B, depending of how old you are and if you've given birth vaginally. And it looks like this. It's a cup. You can use it for 10 years. It's good for the environment. It's good for your vagina because unlike a tampon that puts toxins into you, it doesn't. It just recalls the blood. And unlike tampons who absorb also your vaginal fluids, which you're supposed to have, it doesn't. It just recalls the blood. So like you put it in, well, you obviously have to fold. It looks big, but you fold it, and then you put it in, and then it opens up and vacuums, it vacuums, and it takes up 3 times more than a normal tampon. So like you can just leave it in for like half a day at least, and then when you want to take it out, you pinch, and then it's a bit like giving birth. Well, the sound, it goes like whoop, and then you like flip it, wash it, put it back in. Great invention, absolutely fantastic. I've only had problems with it the first time I tried it because obviously I had to get used to it. It got stuck in me for 14 hours because it flipped. So like instead of being like this, it was like this against my uterus. So that was not a good experience. But I've used it twice after, like for 2 more periods, and it is an absolutely fantastic device. You don't feel anything. Again, fantastic for the environment, even for like boat life, because you're not throwing tampons into the ocean or whatnot, and you don't have to like get tampons every month and contribute to the consumerism. Anyway, that was that for today. I'm now going to make waffles, in case you're interested to know. Have a nice day. Goodbye.